First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT Channel 22 News. First thing in the morning.
If you're just waking up, we've been following two big breaking news stories throughout the night. In South Bend, police are on the scene of an apparent standoff. WSBT's Kelly Stopczynski is there. But first, a firefighter has died. Another is recovering in the hospital right now after a massive business fire near New Carlisle. WSBT's Kristen Bean is at the New Carlisle Fire Department this morning. And Kristen, we just confirmed who was killed in that fire.
Yeah, I just talked to Sheriff Mike Mullenhour, LaPorte County Sheriff Mike Mullenhour. He confirms to me Assistant Chief Jamie Middlebrook lost his life overnight in the fire in New Carlisle. He's a well-known firefighter in the area, involved in a lot of local firefighter organizations, and in fact, his father is a veteran firefighter of some 40 years and was at the fire last night as his son was trapped underneath the debris there in the fire. And was there as his body was pulled out. Now, we're told his body was recovered about 1:30 Central Standard Time. It was taken in a flag. It was draped with an American flag and taken to the LaPorte Hospital with a police escort. We're told an autopsy is today. Meanwhile, firefighters from New Carlisle will stand guard at the hospital, I'm told by Sheriff Mullenhour. Another firefighter was injured in this fire, told he has non-life-threatening injuries. Now, I want to show you pictures. These pictures were sent to us from a LaPorte County paramedic, and they really show the emotion from firefighters from last night and throughout this morning. You can see firefighters gathering together, showing support to one another as they learned of their friend's death. And there's also pictures of the firefighter's body being taken to the hospital. We've posted these photos on our website, or we will be posting them on our website. We've also posted them to Facebook. So what happened last night? Well, we're told that the fire started around 9 o'clock. According, the fire happened at KFEX Incorporated. It's a New Carlisle business west of town. It's a septic and excavation business. No word yet on what caused the fire, but crews from around the area gathered to fight it. In fact, Sheriff Mullenhour tells me at least 16 fire departments came to offer a hand and support in this fire. Some as far away as Buchanan, Niles, Berrien Springs. At one point, firefighters went inside to try and battle the fire from the inside, is what the sheriff tells me, and the roof actually collapsed. And Assistant Chief Jamie Middlebrook, unfortunately, was caught underneath the debris, and he was trapped and he couldn't get out. Firefighters, again, were able to rescue another firefighter. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, but again, Assistant Chief Jamie Middlebrook lost his life in that fire overnight. Still no word on what caused this fire. We're told ATF, the state fire marshal, and detectives are investigating. Also, it's important to mention that this is very traumatic for firefighters and everyone involved in fighting this fire. We're told that firefighters will go through what's called a critical incident stress debriefing. It's standard procedure when someone is killed or injured in a fire. Coming up at 5:30, we'll have more on what happened during the fire, including some of the fire calls made over the scanner and what one of our reporters heard as she was listening to this devastating fire. Leanne.
All right, thank you, Kristen. And we're also following some breaking news right now in South Bend. Several streets are blocked off on the south side of the city after a report of a chase and shots fired. WSBT's Kelly Stopczynski is there right now. And Kelly, we're just learning what may have started this apparent standoff.
You know, Leanne, we're hearing that it all started around 3 o'clock this morning when officers tried to make a traffic stop, pull a car over somewhere on Lincoln Way West. From there, it escalated into a chase, and it stopped here where we are on the south side of town. I can tell you in the last half hour or so, the scene has really changed dramatically. We got here and we saw some 15 or 20 squad cars lined up and down Main Street, which is what you are looking at now, South Main Street, directly across from where the movie theater is down here on the south side. And at one point we heard officers on a bullhorn saying, "Come out of the car. You need to come out of the car right now." We knew officers had a car surrounded on South Main Street. But again, they've taken down some of the barricades showing some of the roads closed, and they have kind of opened the road back up. But what is very significant about this whole thing is while officers were chasing that car, police tell us somebody in the car was shooting back at officers. And I've heard that at least 2 squad cars are, quote, shot up end quote. And so officers are dealing with that right now. It is not clear if this is over or exactly what's going on, but it is, again, much different than when we first got here. It appears it is over, but police officers told somebody who works at the nearby post office that that they're going to be here for some time. We've seen workers trying to get in here for the last half hour, 45 minutes. They have to get out and do their jobs, and they have just been allowed in as they've talked to the officers and tried to go around the barricades. We cannot give you a perimeter right now of all the streets that are blocked off because officers say that it has been an evolving situation over the last 2 hours. And when I called back to dispatch, they didn't know. At one point, my photographer and I tried to get a different vantage point, went down a street that was not closed. An officer screamed at us, "You are in the line of fire. You need to get back." Of course, we did that, and we were told we are in a safe spot right now. But again, though, this appears to be winding down, Leanne. I'm going to stay out here, see if I can hopefully get some information from officers on scene and bring you an update as soon as I get that information.
All right, thanks, Kelly. And we'll check back in with both Kelly and Kristen in a bit as we continue to cover both of these breaking news stories. Our website is down this morning, but you can go to our Facebook and Twitter pages to follow these developing stories. And let's turn now to meteorologist Carrie Peugeot. You know, Carrie, I was here last night, and we were hearing lots of reports of people spotting funnels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were cold air funnels, basically. It wasn't like a tornado. We didn't have severe storms. Sometimes when we get that cooler air aloft and we get just a little bit of that cloud cover and just enough energy, you see those funnels. So they look really scary.
Right, yeah, if you see one,
yeah, you're like, okay, there's a tornado
right.
there. But they're usually very, very weak, and they seldom ever touch down or cause any damage. So some pretty good sights. We do have some pictures of those on our Facebook page as well. But today, our main issue for today is actually going to be fog this morning. If you're heading back to school, Rochester, second day. It's old hat by now, right? We have fog this morning, at least some patchy fog. Temperatures are near 60 degrees right now. We will still get up to 78 today. And for most of the area, we're just talking a mix of the sun and clouds. So I do want to talk about visibility. Visibility is down less than a quarter of a mile in Knox, at a quarter of a mile in Warsaw, and in Sturgis and Angola, and about a 16th of a mile in Fort Wayne. So those are areas that we're really going to keep our eye on, because that's where we're seeing fog that could actually get thicker as we get closer to sunrise, which is a little around 6:30 or so. Nothing to track on the radar, at least for now. Temperatures, if you're getting ready to head out, it's still 61 in Warsaw, 63 in South Bend, and upper 50s along the lakeshore. It will be a cooler day, but definitely not cool. 72 degrees at lunchtime and 78 for the high. We do have an isolated chance of a shower. We're mainly talking along 30 and south. It's really going to be central and southern Indiana, but we will just be on the fringe of that. So we'll be monitoring for that, but otherwise a relatively quiet day with the exception of the fog this morning. Coming up, we will talk about some quieter weather, but also a return to the 80s. I'll have more on that in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Carrie. The time now is 5:08, and we've also been following a lot of other big stories from around the world overnight. Happening right now, a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is holding for a second day ahead. Delegations from both sides are in Cairo for negotiations. This ceasefire is the longest in this deadly war. Happening today, a former Taliban prisoner will meet with an army investigator. Bergdahl will talk about his 2009 disappearance in Afghanistan with the general leading the investigation. Bergdahl spent 5 years in the hands of the Taliban before being turned over in a prisoner swap in May. And overnight, we learned the second American recently diagnosed with Ebola is weak, but showing signs of improvement. Nancy Wright-Bull's husband described her as progressing. She arrived in Atlanta yesterday. Indiana native Dr. Kent Brantley is also improving. The results are in this morning after a long day of primary elections in Michigan. There were no competitive primaries for governor or U.S. Senate on this year's ballots. But there were some key issues in our area. One of those was the battle for the Republican nomination in the 6th district seat in the U.S. House. Incumbent Representative Fred Upton beat out Jim Bussler for the nomination. Upton has been in the House since 1987 and was widely considered a shoo-in to win the primary. He now faces Democrat Paul Clements in the November election. Another item on the ballot, personal property taxes. It passed, ending the state's tax on manufacturing and small business equipment. Local governments will now be reimbursed for their lost revenue by sharing a portion of the state's use tax. In Buchanan, voters voted yes to renewing funding for dial-a-ride programs. And in Niles, the millage renewal also passed. The public transportation companies were hoping for these renewals so that they don't have to cut services for their customers. Both programs offer reduced fare for handicapped and senior riders. Millage renewals for several Southwest Michigan school districts asking for the same 18 mil tax this year that was in effect last year. In Niles, the millage passed. Voters also renewed the millage for Coloma. Eau Claire is also getting a renewal, as well as Decatur. We have more information on today's primaries on our website, WSBT.com. A Michigan City mother is planning to sue the state of Indiana. Anita LaFleur filed a tort claim notice against the Family and Social Services Administration. She says Trisha's Playhouse should have been shut down before her 5-year-old son died there. And now LaFleur's attorney says he's slowly uncovering more information about what happened the day Amarian Williams died from accidental hanging. Investigators say the employees were inside at the time, not watching the kids playing outside. And he says there were several other warning signs.
After their inspection on April 21st and detected or learned of these 6 serious violations, that the facility should have been shuttered at that point.
Those violations include failure to report suspected abuse, a child dealt with inappropriately, and staff members working without background checks. The state now has 90 days to respond to the tort claim notice. If not, the attorney says he will move forward with a lawsuit. Coming up in just 10 minutes, we're learning more this morning about the general killed in Afghanistan. He's the highest ranking American officer killed in combat in decades. And take a look at this, a poodle whose pieces of art will be featured in a gallery next to world-renowned artists. Coming up on WSBT, first thing in the morning.
We do have patchy fog this morning that may slow down your drive a little bit. I'll show you that coming up next.
Keeping you safe in the roads, this is the Morning Drive Report from Zolman's Tire and Auto Care, your complete auto service center.
Well, we are looking at patches of fog this morning. In some cases, it's going to be pretty dense. So if you do a lot of driving, I would get going a little bit faster this morning because you may run into some pockets where it's much slower traveling. We do have some cooler air, and we will be watching for some rain showers. Most of the rain that we see today, even in the Midwest, is going to be either south or west of us, but we are right on the edge of that. So I'll show you that, and I'll explain that here in a second. First, though, getting out the door this morning, visibility. This is visibility in miles. Usually, when we have fog, the fog is thickest right around sunrise, and obviously we have a little time between now and then for the fog to even drop or the visibility to drop. Right now it is less than a 1/16 of a mile in Knox. It's about a 1/4 of a mile in Warsaw and in Sturgis, and it's showing up as less than a 1/16 of a mile in Angola and Fort Wayne as well. So in these locations, that's where I expect the fog to be the thickest, and since we're already seeing 1/4 mile visibility at this early in the morning, it is likely that we will have some pretty good slowdowns where it's hard to see in those areas, like Warsaw, one area I'm concerned, Knox, Pulaski counties, where we're also going to be watching. So plan a little extra time. In Mishawaka, this is our sky cam, and we can see a pretty good distance. We can see the lights. There's no major problems at this point. So visibility is not that low around South Bend, Mishawaka, even into Elkhart. It's still pretty good at this point. You will feel some cooler temperatures, although definitely not cold. It's just cooler than what we had yesterday morning. 63 in Rochester, Plymouth, and South Bend, and we have those upper 50s along the lake shore. It will be very pleasant during the course of today. Temperatures will be warm enough for summer activities, but we're not talking a lot of heat today. Upper 70s nearing 80 degrees. You can see those 78 readings showing up in South Bend, 79 in Grand Rapids, and the lower 80s showing up in Indianapolis. Well, those 80s, where you see those, that's where we're going to see chances of rain. We had our chance yesterday. We had those scattered showers in the afternoon, and in between we saw a lot of sunshine. Well, this morning we have mainly clear skies with just a couple of clouds, but if you look at this wider picture, we're not really very far away from the boundary. The boundary off to our west producing some rain showers over Iowa, and then where we're not seeing any rain is down through central Illinois, southern Indiana, and then it kind of curves over into Ohio. Right about that boundary is where we will be watching for showers to redevelop today. Now, most of that is not going to be a problem for us. Most of that's going to be south of us, but I can't 100% rule out an isolated shower. So if you are south of 30, if you're in Rochester, or if you're in Mentone, it's likely that you'll see a small scattered shower once we get into the afternoon. But other than that, the rest of the region should stay pretty dry. High pressure is really going to be in place today and tomorrow, and that's going to help give us a lot of sunshine and keep our temperatures in check, just a little bit cooler than what we've been feeling over the last couple of days. So your forecast for the rest of today actually looks pretty decent, 78 for the high. Now we have the fog this morning, but the rest of the day, the main focus is going to be the partly sunny skies. Now there's that slight chance of rain, but that's mainly south. As we get into tomorrow, still in the upper 70s during the day on Thursday, we return to the low 80s 80s on Friday and Saturday, and we're talking lower to mid 80s on Sunday. If your kids start school next week and you're planning out some major summer activities this weekend, it looks really great for that. Really quiet, first of all, but also nice and warm.
Yeah, really no worries for the rest of the week.
No, you know, even today, I mean, we have the fog this morning. Otherwise, it's really quiet until we get into next week.
All right, great. Thanks, Carrie. Well, artists come in all shapes and sizes, and apparently species too. Take a look at one poodle who loves picking up a brush and painting abstract pieces. But get this, the poodle's pieces will even be featured in an auction gallery alongside nationally renowned artists. The dog's owner also paints, so she thought it would be a great idea to train her pup to paint too. Oh, and get this, the poodle's paintings are expected to fetch hundreds at the auction.
Well, distracted by your cell phone in the car, we'll tell you the latest city trying to tackle that problem by taking the phone away.
And details this morning after an American general is killed, other troops injured in an attack in Afghanistan. Welcome back. It's now 5:20, and if you're just waking up, we're continuing to cover some big breaking news from overnight. One firefighter is dead. Another is recovering in the hospital following a massive business fire near New Carlisle. We just learned the Assistant Fire Chief, Jamie Middlebrook, was killed. The other firefighter has non-life-threatening injuries and is expected to be okay. WSBT's Kristen Bean is at the New Carlisle Fire Department, and we'll have a live report with updates in about 10 minutes. A U.S. official has identified the senior officer killed in Afghanistan. This man, Major General Harold Green, was killed. He's the highest-ranking American officer killed in combat since the 70s. Green was killed Tuesday in one of the bloodiest insider attacks of the long Afghanistan war, when a gunman dressed as an Afghan soldier turned on Allied troops. About 15 U.S. and coalition forces were hurt, including a German general and 2 Afghan generals. And we'll be right back.
Well, outside today, we are actually dealing with fog this morning. So if you do a lot of driving, you'll want to plan a few extra minutes. We actually have a dense fog advisory for St. Joe County in Michigan. That county is included with a dense fog advisory, and it continues into Ohio. So if you're going to jump on the toll road and head towards Ohio, that's where a lot of the really slow travel is going to be. Otherwise, though, it's a pretty quiet morning. We have temperatures in the low 60s in South Bend at 63, 62 in Plymouth, and the upper 50s along the lakeshore. Will be a cooler day overall. I wouldn't say it's going to be cool, though. We're still talking upper 70s, nearing 80 degrees. This is a look at our sky cam in Mishawaka. Now, I mentioned that fog, but here in Mishawaka, you can see that we can see a good distance. You can see those lights. They're pretty crisp, so the visibility is not low enough to cause any major issues around Mishawaka or South Bend at this point. Temperatures will be near 60 degrees at 8 o'clock, and if you're planning out your day, that fog should burn off pretty quickly, middle morning hours, and then that will be gone. The rest of the day, we'll see a mix of the sun and clouds. 72 at lunchtime and a high of 78 later this afternoon. You notice I still have that 20% around 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's mainly for areas south of 30. A lot of the rain showers that we get today will be in central and southern Indiana, but we will be just on that northern fringe. So 1 or 2 showers possible. Most of you won't see that today. 78 with sun tomorrow. We're back into the lower 80s starting on Friday.
This is pretty good for the kids who are trying to squeeze that last bit of summer break.
Some kids have just about a week, and so we have some summer left in there at least.
Right, yeah, good for them.
Well, what do you think about this? Completely banning cell phones in cars.
Well, that means no talking, texting, or using a phone at all. That's what some hope happens in Austin, Texas. The city's Public Safety Commission approved a recommendation on tightening up the ordinance, saying you cannot use a phone even if the car isn't moving. It would also include bicycles. But police say it will be hard to enforce. And there are some exceptions, like for people reporting an emergency or using a hands-free device or pulling into a parking lot. Many say it's a good idea.
It's like we're sitting at a red light, we feel like we should be doing something, but we really shouldn't be. Like, you could rear-end the person in front of you, you might take your foot off the brake, you don't know.
The public gets a chance to give input about the issue tomorrow. The City Council will vote on the proposal later this month.
Well, we're approaching 5:30 and working to get you the very latest on the deadly fire to business in New Carlisle.
It's breaking news we've been following all night. One firefighter is dead, another in the hospital right now. An update from our team working to cover this developing story next.
First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT Channel 22 News. First thing in the morning.
And we're continuing to follow 2 big breaking news stories this morning. The first near New Carlisle. One firefighter is dead. Another is recovering in the hospital right now following a massive business fire. Our team has been working throughout the night learning new information for you. WSBT's Kristen Bean is at the New Carlisle Fire Department. Kristen, what's the latest?
Well, overnight we've learned who the firefighter is that died. Sheriff Mike Mullenhour tells us New Carlisle Assistant Chief Jamie Middlebrook lost his life in that fire last night. He's a well-known firefighter in this area, involved in local firefighters associations and organizations. His father, also a veteran firefighter of some 40-plus years, and his father was there fighting the fire when this all happened. I want you to take a look behind me. We are in front of the New Carlisle Fire Station this morning, where firefighters from New Carlisle Fire Department and other fire departments around the area have been going in and out all morning long. You can see also the flags are now at half staff. It's very somber here. No doubt these firefighters have gone through something very traumatic. They put their lives on the line every day, but knowing that, you know, it's dangerous, but when they lose one of their own, it is heartbreaking. So I want to show you these pictures from taken overnight by a LaPorte County paramedic. He sent them to us via email. They really show the emotions from last night as firefighters learned of their colleague's death and as his body was escorted from the scene to the hospital morgue. Now, we're told his body was recovered around 1:30 Central Standard Time this morning. It was draped in an American flag and then taken to the LaPorte Hospital with a police escort. We're told the autopsy will be today in Fort Wayne. Meanwhile, firefighters from New Carlisle will stand guard at the hospital. That's what Sheriff Mike Mullenhour tells me. It's procedure for this department. We're also told another firefighter was injured in this fire, but he was pulled out and saved. He has non-life-threatening injuries. We're told a broken bone and some minor burns. So what happened last night? Around 9 o'clock is when the fire started at KFEX Incorporated. It's a New Carlisle business just west of town. They do septic excavation type work. Crews from around the area responded to this fire. It was a multiple alarm fire, so crews from Berrien Springs, Niles, Clay Township, Buchanan came to offer mutual aid and assistance to fight this fire. We're told by Sheriff Mike Mullenhour that at one point firefighters went in to try and combat the fire from the inside, but the roof collapsed, and that's when Assistant Chief Jamie Middlebrook was trapped under debris and unable to get out. At this point, we're told the cause is unknown, but it is under investigation. The State Fire Marshal, ATF, and detectives are investigating right now. Also, important to note that because this fire is so traumatic for firefighters, they're going to undergo critical incident stress debriefing. It is standard procedure when somebody is injured or a death happens. I also want to share with you our own reporter, WSBT Kelly Stopczynski, was listening to the scanner as this was all going down. Now, after about 45 minutes after the initial dispatch, she said she heard someone say, "Get ready for a mayday." A mayday, of course, means a firefighter is hurt or something is wrong. After that, several moments of silence, some muffled screaming and yelling in the background, more silence, and then someone said everyone was accounted for. It wasn't until about 2.5 hours later that we learned a firefighter was missing and presumed dead. And again, we have confirmed this morning, Assistant Chief Jamie Middleton from the New Carlisle Fire Department lost his life in that fire tonight. We're continuing to follow this story throughout the day, and we'll bring you the latest on our Facebook page as well as online soon. In New Carlisle, I'm Kristen Bean, WSBT Channel 22 News.
And we're also following some breaking news right now on the south side of South Bend. Several streets are blocked off, and there's a large police presence on South Main Street for an apparent standoff. WSBT's Kelly Stopczynski is there right now. And Kelly, we're learning this is now an officer-involved shooting.
A very, very wild story coming out of downtown South Bend this morning, Leanne. I can tell you that around 3 o'clock this morning, a man who was working at a building in downtown South Bend trying to make repairs to the building says he walked out to put something in his truck, walked back in, turned the lights off, came back out and found his truck was gone. And that's when he called police. And I have also found out this man who owns the truck is in fact a retired South Bend police officer. From there was an extensive chase. Witnesses Witnesses tell me that it reached very high speeds, estimating 80, 90, possibly even 100 miles an hour down Main Street in South Bend. And this is where it ended. Take a look. While this was going on, police say the suspect, a woman, was shooting at officers from her car while they were chasing her. Some of the officers exchanged fire, and because of that, this is now a Metro homicide investigation. Nobody dead here, nobody injured that we know of, police say, but Metro homicide always investigates when officers are involved in any kind of shooting. And you can see the back of that squad car smashed in pretty good there, and the pickup truck that was stolen. Take a look at that pickup truck here. The driver apparently crashed it. We are right outside of the post office that is on South Main Street in South Bend. Again, the SWAT standoff is over. We know police have a woman in custody, and they are questioning that woman right now. The good news here is that nobody was hurt in this incident, but a very wild story that this truck happened to belong to a former retired South Bend police officer, and he saw it. He called his family, his wife, and said, "Hey, pick me up. We got to go find the person who took my truck." He says he saw it racing down Main Street at an excessive speed. And again, officers say they do have that woman in custody, but we don't have much more information about her. Again, Metro Homicide is handling this investigation out here. Leanne?
A scary moment for police this morning. Thank you, Kelly. We will check back in with both Kelly and Kristen later in the newscast as we continue to cover this now deadly business fire and the SWAT situation in South Bend. Our website is down this morning, but you can find the latest updates on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And let's turn now to meteorologist Carrie Peugeot. Some of us are dealing with fog this morning.
Yeah, another issue we have is fog. We have a dense fog advisory for St. Joe County, Michigan. Everyone else will see pockets of it, but it's not as widespread. So take a look at the visibility map. Visibility, when we get it down around a quarter of a mile or less for an extended period of time, that's when we start to see trouble areas. So Knox, one of those areas, Fort Wayne, Angola, Sturgis, those are locations that already have that criteria. Visibility is a little bit better in Warsaw. It's about a half mile. In Rochester, it's about 3/4 of a mile. When it's that low, you definitely see the fog, but it's not. You can still see a good distance to travel, at least safely at that point. This is something that we will monitor over the next couple of hours. I would expect the fog, if it's going to get worse, to get a little worse in the next hour and then start to improve. Now, temperatures a little cooler today. 59 in Benton Harbor and Michigan City, 62 in Plymouth, 61 in Warsaw. If you look at the satellite and radar, it's actually pretty quiet outside. With the exception of the fog, we have quieted down overnight. The rain showers have moved to our south, and I expect to see a lot of sunshine today. That sun will also help burn that fog away pretty quickly today. 72 at noon if you're planning out your day, 78 for the high. I do expect to see an isolated shower, mainly south of 30 this afternoon. That's why I have that 20% in there, but for most of the area, you'll stay dry. Coming up, we'll talk more about those chances of rain, and I'll let you know when those 80s will return in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Carrie. The time now, 5:37. The results are in this morning from Michigan's primary election. And even though voter turnout was low, a lot of key issues in our area passed. Millage renewals passed for Buchanan and Niles dial-a-ride programs. Also, school millage renewals for Niles, Coloma, Eau Claire, and Decatur all passed as well. And for the Republican nomination for the 6th District of the U.S. House, incumbent Fred Upton beat Jim Bussler. For a full list of election results, head to our website, WSBT.com. An Indiana business will reopen its doors this morning after a deadly shooting. Police responded to shots fired at Jordan Manufacturing in Monticello around 11:30 yesterday morning. That's where they found 2 men dead, and a woman was taken to the hospital where she died. A witness says one of the men walked into the business with a box wrapped like a present, looking for his ex-wife. Well, the witness says a short time later, the ex-wife and her boyfriend pulled into a parking spot, and that's when the shooter jumped out from behind a tree with a gun, shooting the couple and then himself. Police are still investigating. Closing arguments are set to begin today in the Detroit porch shooting murder trial. 55-year-old Theodore Wafer is on trial for shooting and killing 19-year-old Renisha McBride. Wafer says he shot the teen because he feared for his safety when she banged on his door and made loud noises on his porch last November. A string of break-ins near East Wayne and Sunnymead is concerning neighbors this morning. In the past year and a half, there have been 41 reported break-ins. One woman was alerted by her neighbor when her home was broken into, and when she got home, she found all her jewelry was gone. Sarah Crowley grew up in the neighborhood that she thought was safe, but many residents are fearing for their safety now. Over 145 neighbors went to the most recent neighborhood association meeting to show their concern. Local police ensured them they are actively searching for a suspect.
I feel a little bit more safe with the security system, but it's still scary. It's still scary to come home at night, not knowing if somebody's in your backyard or in your home.
Police believe one suspect is behind the string of break-ins. They describe him as 5'8" to 5'9", African-American male, about 250 pounds. They say he could have neck-length dreadlocks. And in an effort to fight crime, local police departments held National Night Out yesterday. WSBT visited Twin Branch Park, where Mishawaka police gathered along with members of the community. The goal is for police to develop relationships with neighborhoods. That way, people are more likely to report crime when it happens. Twin Branch Park is just one neighborhood police say they have a good relationship with. Many kids at the event got the chance to play on St. Joseph County's MRAP. It's a military-grade vehicle used in SWAT and rescue situations. A federal court of appeals in Cincinnati will hear arguments today about 4 states' disputes over gay marriage. Those states include Michigan, Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee. A 3-judge panel will consider the 6 cases. Now, the circuit courts are the last step before the U.S. Supreme Court, and its rulings will put pressure on the nation's highest court to weigh in. More than 300 same-sex couples were married in March after a Detroit federal judge ruled that Michigan's ban is unconstitutional. The time now is 5:40, and as many kids get ready to head back to school, one big concern is bullying. But now there's an app for that, and an Indiana student is behind it. Details coming up on WSBT first thing in the morning.
And here's a look outside this morning. This is a look at South Bend from St. Joseph Regional Medical Center. A little haze along that horizon. We have some fog issues, but overall a cooler forecast. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Now your accurate Storm Tracker forecast with meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
Outside around the area, we are seeing problems with fog across the region. Now, not everyone is seeing the issues. This is our visibility map. Where we have visibility above a mile, you're likely to see the fog, at least some haze, but not major issues like around South Bend and Benton Harbor. But in Knox, Rochester, Warsaw, Elkhart, Sturgis, and off to the east, that's where we're seeing some problems. We've actually heard of an accident in Goshen, right, Leanne? It's in Goshen, the accident. So we do have visibility that's down to about a quarter of a mile between Elkhart and Warsaw, and Goshen, of course, being in there. So plan some extra time for your drive, especially if you drive in a lot of rural areas early this morning. That's where we're seeing the fog, at least being the least visibility at this point. This is our sky cam in South Bend from St. Joseph Regional Medical Center, and you can see downtown. We can see the lights, so visibility is not a major or serious issue around South Bend, Mishawaka, or even Elkhart area. And while I do expect to see the pockets of fog this morning, we should see improvements pretty quickly because the sun will be out. That will help burn off the fog. Temperatures at 11 o'clock around 66 degrees. We will be in the mid and upper 70s later this afternoon, so that's slightly cooler. And we still have slight chances of rain, but that's mainly if you're in Rochester. If you're south of 30, that's where we're going to get an isolated shower today. Everyone else is going to stay dry. Right now, the current temperatures outside, 62 in Knox and Plymouth. We have 63 at South Bend Regional Airport and the upper 50s along the lakeshore in Benton Harbor and Michigan City. High temperatures today in those upper 70s. Certainly not extreme heat here, but still warm enough if you're heading to the pool or the beach. It's still going to be warm enough for that type of activity. It's just not going to be a lot of the 80s. We do have more 80s in the forecast once we get into the weekend, but today and tomorrow we'll take a little bit of a break. As far as the rain is concerned, I did tell you that we had that slight chance of a shower. Well, right now over the satellite and radar imagery here over northern Indiana, southwest lower Michigan, a few clouds. That fog obviously is an issue, but if you look at the wider picture, you can see showers out in Iowa, and if you can connect like with a boundary, with a line down through southern Indiana, that connects to the rain showers out in West Virginia, and that boundary is the focus for the showers today. We will be on the very northern tip of that edge, so I really expect high pressure to keep most of our area dry, but an isolated small shower like what we've had in the afternoon, that's possible as we go through the afternoon today and into this evening. Otherwise, though, the forecast looking pretty quiet, with the exception of the fog. Once the fog is gone, most of the day will just be partly sunny. We'll hit 78 this afternoon. We're still expecting high temperatures in the upper 70s tomorrow, and then we return into the 80s once we get into the weekend, especially Saturday and Sunday. I think you'll feel the humidity increase. It will be stickier on Saturday and Sunday, but we're still talking temperatures that are relatively close to normal. Lower to mid 80s is pretty standard this time of year. Our next chance of rain, we have that slight chance today, but I wouldn't count on that for anyone for a good soaking rain if you didn't get enough yesterday. Our next chance of rain doesn't get here until at least next week.
Carrie, you mentioned that accident in Goshen. We just learned that there are no serious injuries, so really it just sounds like a traffic concern this morning, and that's on County Road 17 in the northbound lanes.
Okay.
There you go. So as students get ready to head back to school, one student in Indianapolis is trying to make the school year more peaceful for everyone. The teen spent 9 months creating the Bully Box. It's an app created to catch bullies. And now the teen is finally seeing it put to good use. It's a way for students, victims, or witnesses to report bullying and even cyberbullying anonymously. Students at Liberty Christian School are using the app this year. They just learned how to use it yesterday. Teachers and administrators at the school say this is a great way to help cut back on violence.
Well, shifting through internet videos, trying to find the perfect one to post on your friend's timeline can take a while, but this morning we have the perfect one for anyone who loves small kids.
That's right. You won't believe how simple it was to make this little girl smile. You have to see it ahead on First Thing in the Morning. It's 5:49 and it's now time to check out some of the videos lighting up the internet this morning. And let's just say, if you're not afraid of heights and are planning a vacation, you might want to check out the world's largest urban zip line.
It's located in Panama City. Take a look. Oh, and this extreme ride riders travel down a zip line cable from a tall skyscraper.
But the fun doesn't end there. Then while traveling down the zip line, participants release their safety cable to then parachute down to safety. Let's just say this isn't for those who hate heights. This extreme video was uploaded Monday and already has almost 500,000 views. Would you do that?
No, I've done zip lining, but I would not release my safety cable. It's called safety cable.
It's there for a reason, right?
For safety.
I don't think I'd even do the zip line. All right, parents, you know how difficult it can be to calm a crying toddler on a long car trip. But one parent figured out just the trick to making this baby happy again. Take a look. This poor little girl is on the verge of tears. That is until Katy Perry's song Dark Horse comes on. As soon as she hears the tune, she instantly starts giggling, dancing, and tries to sing along. This video was just uploaded on Monday and already has almost 3 million views. Oh, those are some dance moves there.
Yeah. Oh,
how funny.
All right. That's good. We'll have to watch that one again.
Yeah.
Outside this morning, we actually have a couple of trouble areas with the fog.
Yeah.
So expect a foggy commute, especially in areas like Goshen and Warsaw and LaGrange County and Sturgis. In St. Joe County, Michigan, we actually have a dense fog advisory. In Rochester, you do see fog. Visibility is about 3/4 of a mile, and that's where we have kids going to school today. I don't expect that to cause major issues, but you may want to watch for some pockets where it's a little bit thicker around Fulton County. Temperatures this morning near 60, and we'll get up to 78 this afternoon. And really the main theme of the forecast today is a mix of the sun and clouds. We're at 62 in Plymouth, 63 in Rochester, 61 in Warsaw, and you can see hanging on at 66 in Elkhart. Right now, our Skycam in South Bend, if you're worried about fog in those areas, South Bend, Mishawaka, we're really not seeing any major issues. You can see a good distance here in South Bend, so visibility is about 5 or 6 miles. You may see some haze, but it's not causing any major issues. 72 at lunchtime, 78 for the high today. There is an isolated chance of a shower, mainly south of 30 this afternoon. Those small little pockets of showers. I don't expect much coverage there. Everyone else north will stay dry. 78 with sun tomorrow, and we're back in the lower 80s as we head into Friday and the weekend. Our Sketch the Sky picture today is from Alex Lennig of Rolling Prairie, who sent us this one. And if you'd like to send us a picture, send it to 1301 East Douglas Road, Mishawaka, Indiana, 46545, or submit it online at WSBT.com.
All right, we're just a few minutes away from 6 o'clock, but first we're recapping some of the top stories of the morning, including breaking news we've been following all night. One firefighter is dead, another is recovering after battling a large business fire near New Carlisle. WSBT's Kristen Bean has quick updates after the break. It's almost 6 o'clock and we're updating our top stories of the morning, including breaking news we've been following all night. One firefighter is dead, another is recovering after a massive business fire near New Carlisle. Kristen is at the scene right now. And
Leanne, we've learned that Assistant Chief of New Carlisle Fire Department Jamie Middlebrook lost his life in that fire last night. When the roof collapsed, he was trapped underneath debris. Now, firefighters and police have escorted his body to the LaPorte Hospital. It's at the morgue right now. We've learned firefighters will stand guard there at the morgue. His autopsy is today. That fire started about 9 o'clock yesterday evening at KFEX Incorporated. It's a business west of New Carlisle. We're continuing to follow this. We know the investigation is ongoing right now into what caused this fire. The latest, including what happened and what happens now, coming up at 6, 6:30, and 6:55. Leanne.
Thank you, Kristen, and we'll check back in with her at 6. We're also following some breaking news in South Bend. We've just confirmed Metro Homicide is now investigating an officer-involved shooting. It started around 4 this morning on the south side of the city. Police say a woman stole a retired police officer's truck, then led police on a wild chase where she shot at police. We're told no one was hurt. WSBT's Kelly Stopczynski is on the scene, and we'll have a live update also in just minutes. A Michigan City mother is planning to sue Indiana. Anita LaFleur filed a tort claim notice, saying the daycare her 5-year-old son died at should have been shut down before the incident. And now LaFleur's attorney is uncovering more information leading up to the death. And it's the morning after Election Day in Michigan. Voter turnout was low, but several key issues were decided yesterday. Those include several local school millage renewals, transportation renewals, and a statewide personal business tax issue. Those results and more are coming up in the next hour of WSBT First Thing in the Morning.